Hey folks, and welcome back to the National Atomic Testing Museum located right here in the heart of Las Vegas. A one-of-a-kind museum dedicated to the history and legacy of the Nevada National Security Site about 65 miles north of here. In the last episode, we learned all about the initial test at the Trinity site in New Mexico, the early days of testing, and why Nevada was chosen as the location for the Continental Test Site. Today, we'll learn all about the development of the U.S. nuclear weapons program and the impact it had on our culture and nation during and after the Cold War, as well as the role it plays in our national security today. Although the detonations of the Fat Man and Little Boy devices over Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 did bring an end to World War II, and instantly transformed the United States into the most powerful nation in the world, which many believed would usher in an era of lasting peace, the effect was short-lived. Only 4 years after the Trinity test, Russian operatives, some of which were Manhattan Project scientists, turned over nuclear testing information to the Soviets, which allowed them to successfully start their own nuclear arms program. This was the start of the Cold War, and the arms race responsible for unprecedented nuclear arms proliferation between the two superpowers. The fear posed by the Russian nuclear program necessitated the rapid development of weapons technology and tactics in the United States. In the span of just 10 years, roughly from 1950 to 1960, the United States produced roughly 32,000 nuclear warheads, and the Soviet Union approximately the same. The weapons were initially large bombs dropped from strategic bombers, but ballistic missiles quickly became the focus. In the early days of the Cold War, medium-range and intermediate-range ballistic missiles were developed and successfully tested. Many lesser-known devices were designed and tested as well, including such things as the portable backpack device, as well as a portable catapult device called the M29 Davy Crockett Weapon System, better known to us Wastelanders as the Fat Man.
I yelled timber, watch out for flying glass. Cause the ceiling fell in and the bottom fell out. I went into a spin and I started to shout, I've been hit.
The museum houses a large and impressive collection of these devices, allowing us a glimpse into the early Cold War weapons development program.
Out of an orange-colored purple stripe.
In addition to the impressive exhibits, there's also the Ground Zero Theater, an interactive theater which you can watch a film about the test site and experience some of the effects.
3, 2, 1, 0. Shot ready to arrive shortly.
Whoa! Oh boy, not again! Duck and cover! Not only does the theater provide a unique sensory experience, but the film is excellent and highly thought-provoking. Just outside the Ground Zero Theater, you'll see a replica of an actual fallout shelter. Now, it may not be the digs you vault dwellers are accustomed to, but it's a lot like the homemade shelters us Wastelanders knew all too well. But in the real world, this exhibit masterfully gives us a glimpse into the direct impact the Cold War arms race had on the psyche of the American culture, as well as people all over the world. Oh, hey, bud, nice haircut. We have the same barber. It's an outstanding glimpse into the duck and cover period of the 1950s, and what had come to be a social norm for many during the Cold War years.
To illustrate his last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark?
Vault dwellers weren't the only people going underground in the late 1950s. On September 19, 1957, the United States detonated a 1.7 kiloton warhead in an underground tunnel at the Nevada test site. This test was known as Rainier and was the start of Operation Plum Bob. In 1963, the U.S. signed a limited test ban treaty which banned nuclear testing in the atmosphere, underwater, and in space, thus leaving underground testing as the only logical alternative. At the time, underground testing was believed to be an effective way to eliminate nuclear fallout from testing, as had been produced by previous atmospheric tests.
So Chip, this is a diagnostic equipment rack. For the underground tests, the vertical weapons development tests, they would drill these huge holes in the Nevada desert and lower with crane this equipment rack into the hole. And the device would have been placed right there, and it would have been about 800 to 2,000 feet underground is where the device would be. And so this is where they would have got all the data, wires and cables just running up and down, going out to the diagnostic stations out on the surface. And that's basically how they recorded the data.
I'm okay.
Now Chip, this is an actual artifact that we're walking under. This is a decoupler. This was a part of horizontal underground tests, the weapons effects tests, where they would have had these pipes placed in tunnels and they would have had a nuclear blast go off. They wanted to see how that impacted military hardware, such as nuclear warheads or communications equipment.
As Joe had mentioned in Part 1, a total of 928 tests took place at the Nevada test site from 1951 to 1996, when the U.S. signed the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which prohibited nuclear testing in every environment, including underground. Oh, Joe, what's this model railroad?
So this right here, Chip, is a model of the Jackass and Western Railroad. And basically, out at the site, it wasn't just about testing nuclear weapons. It was also about testing other nuclear-related experiments. Over here is where they assembled and disassembled nuclear rocket-powered engines. And in order to take them from where they were assembled, they would have to put it on the railroad car and take it all the way over here where it would actually be tested.
I mean, I have a Nuka-Cola model railroad, but this is so much cooler.
Well, it's definitely unique, that's for sure. There's not too many railroads like this one.
Oh, no, not at all. Oh, and what's this?
So this is also part of the nuclear rocket engine program. So out at Area 25 on the Nevada test site, Los Alamos National Laboratory worked with NASA to develop nuclear-powered rocket engines. And the idea behind that was to see if they could use nuclear power to get us to space, the moon, and beyond. This is a real Phoebus reactor engine, not a model. This is one of the ones they would have actually tested out at the site.
On November 9th, 1989, the most notorious symbol of the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, was brought down by a people ready to move forward into a more unified, peaceful future. It can be argued that this amazing moment in world history was the end of the Cold War. However, though nuclear proliferation between the world superpowers eased greatly in modern times, both the U.S. and Russia still maintain massive nuclear arsenals, and a number of other countries, including India and Pakistan, have become nuclear powers as well. As global political tensions continue to arise and new threats from international terrorism play out on the world stage, we are reminded that our security as a nation is never an assured thing, and we must always be vigilant in the face of such threats. The work done by the men and women at the Nevada National Security Site may have been controversial and shocking to some, and those are indeed valid points that need to be heard. But the impact they had on our national security is undeniable and merits just as much recognition and discourse. That discourse is one of the primary missions of the National Atomic Testing Museum. The museum actively provides seminars, special exhibits, and all kinds of educational programs to engage the public and help bring the Nevada test site and the U.S. nuclear weapons program into focus. So now we've seen the things that were developed and how they were tested at the Nevada National Security Site during the Cold War, and have had a look at how it affected our culture. But speaking of culture, stay tuned for the third and final part of the Test Site series, where we explore the bizarre and quirky pop culture that exploded from the nuclear era. It's as wacky wasteland as you can get, and laid the foundation and gave soul to our beloved Fallout games. Oh, in Fallout 3 there's one just like this in the town of Megaton. Oh, but that one needs to be defused. This one doesn't, does it?
My background's history, not science, so I can't really tell you too much about that ship.
And you're sure it's not active?
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
But you also know that